It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Thursday, May 11th, and so happy for you joining us, and we are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening today? We have an exciting podcast for you. We have Sermons in the Sky, QNA Thursday, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. All right, everyone, how are you doing? And I'm sure you can hear in the background. Can you hear that? Like, it sounds like my dad's farting. But it's not a fart. He's playing the baritone. It's kind of like a mini tuba, right? And he's practicing next door. So you just got to know that I am in a circumstance that is not ideal, but I am thankful to God that I actually have a place to be in right now. So, how are you guys doing today? How is everything going? How was the Wednesday service last night? I'm sure you guys really enjoyed it. And of course, we're getting like the live pre-dawns also. And I hope you guys are enjoying that too. I had some good inspiration from it, and that's going to be where that's where I got my inspiration for Sermons in the Sky today. And it's about, are you walking on water? That's kind of like the gist I want to talk about, that one story of Jesus walking on water and asking Peter to come out. And I got an inspiration a little bit different than what's normal, but I wanted to talk about that. I got inspired for that too, just listening to that pre-dawn message. So if you haven't yet, guys, go ahead, leave a like, comment. Let's build this community. Really happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. And then, of course, we have got a ton of great, like, new programs coming out. Man Cave, doing awesome. They're, like, in the number 1 percentile right now. A lot of people are listening to that. You know what the interesting thing about this is, though? Because, we were joking around in the Man Cave chat room. And it was really funny because it's like, someone said, like, man, after people listen to this, you might start getting more guys on your channel. And I was like, you know what? I should check my audience. So I did check my audience, and yeah, and this is not because for any other reason. I think it's not any other reason than that we just don't have a lot of guys in this history. But my channel right now is 72% women. So I'm really hoping that the Man Cave is going to bring some more guys into this channel too. I hope it's something that's going to kind of even out the playing field too, and help the guys out and the girls out too. Guys, I would love to hear your comments on the first Man Cave. It's going to come out every single Tuesday in Asia time. So I hope you guys will enjoy that also. Great news. What's the great news? The great news is I already have 3 people for the girl side. I'm not sure what that podcast is going to be called, but we've already got 3 people, which means we're ready to record and start discussing and brainstorming our first episode. I'm hoping that we're going to record sometime this weekend, but excuse me. Everyone's on different time zones. Like, even on the Man Cave, I'm in Canada in West, like, Pacific Standard Time. You have like Julius, who's over there in Australia, which is 1 hour. I think it's like 1 hour ahead of Korea. And then, Mason would be on Pacific time. You have Eddie on like Hawaii time, which is 3 hours away from us. Supung, who's over there in like Korea, who's 1 hour. He's like 16 hours away from me. We just got people stretched everywhere, but I'm super grateful and thankful that, we're all able to find a good time that all of us can record together. So that is something that I was thinking about a lot, and something that that was on my mind. I really wanted to, I really thought it was kind of cool to, just to see the reaction. The girls like, oh yeah, our first episode is going to react to the very first episode of the Man Cave. And I've already heard some stuff like people are telling me like, you know what? I understand now, because remember, if you guys haven't heard it yet, they're talking about like decorations are so girly and stuff. Like, they heard it from the guys in their churches too, but they never really understood it until they heard it on the Man Cave. So we are serving male justice on this Man Cave. But like I said, we want to hear the girls' side too. So hopefully, if you guys are out there, if there's any more, not everyone can make it out every single week. So we have like 7-8 people already in the Man Cave. the man cave, what do you call it? The man cave chat room. So we're always going to have 3 people no matter what. So I hope it's going to be the same thing like that for next week also. So for those of you out there, really, really thankful and grateful. But I would really love to see your responses. Not so much, I know some of you are like super introverts out there. And if you're an introvert, it's okay. Just leave a like. If you really like it, leave a like. I would like to see your likes. Because it's the same form of communication that, you're enjoying these podcasts or these other programs. So leave a like if no one's going to know who left the like anyways. Leave a like, leave a comment, build our community. Let's support each other. And let's just make sure that, sometimes some of us are going to go through some rough times and we got to support each other in each and every way. I'm going to talk about something that just brutal happened to me yesterday. It kept me up all night, but yeah, I'll get into it a little bit later, but yeah, I'm excited. Man Cave started. We've got 3 episodes already recorded. They're already scheduled up. We're going to get the girl side going. And of course, next week, I'm hoping that, I know that they recorded 2 episodes already, Aaron and Chelsea for Love and Life. And, they're newly married, new blessed family. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. And it's quite interesting for me. Because like I said before, I really, really want to see that side of married couples. Just to see inside their lives too, because I think it's really cool that we can understand a lot better because, I think even in the future, as they do this podcast more and more, when they start having children and they start talking about those things, I think that would be really cool too, to get inside the mind, and campus and SS will really understand, like even career department really understand how amazing the families really are. They're really, really amazing. So I can't wait for this Love and Life. That's supposed to be coming out, I believe, on the 18th, I believe. Right? But I'm just hoping that everything will come out at the right time for that. So here it is. What's the crazy bad thing that happened to me yesterday? All right. So yeah, I was up until 3:30 in the morning because of this. And I'm going to tell you this right now. My life is not ruined. It's not something that's like, it's not something irreplaceable. It's not like I do regret it because it's my mistake, but my crypto wallet got hacked, right? And I lost a bunch of money, but it is my fault, right? It is my fault, right? And here's the thing, like, of course, initially when I saw it happen, I was like, what the heck? Where's my money? Like, where did it all go? The weird part was I wasn't like, of course, the initial shock was like, oh, Sky, you're so stupid, you idiot, right? But it wasn't, I think that wasn't the biggest thing for me. I knew it was my fault, right? I wasn't going to blame God or anything else. I was just like, But what else? The interesting thing was what kept me up at night. What kept me up at night? What I was fighting with myself in my mind. I'm not sure if you guys can relate to this, but I was fighting in my mind, like, man, like using this as an excuse to do more bad things. You know what I mean? Like, just like kind of just letting yourself go. I've held myself for so much, and then this stupid thing happened. It's my fault though. Like, I'm gonna tell you straight, it's my fault. But it was in my mind, like, man, I was like, gosh, like 2023, what a terrible year. It's my fault. But I'm like, what a terrible year. Why is this happening? Why did that happen? And I was like, fighting with myself in my mind of like going back into old habits or doing things that I normally shouldn't, or thinking things I shouldn't be thinking and stuff like that too. And that's what I was fighting with in my mind. Kind of just letting myself, I was like, I lost this. I might as well let myself go and just do whatever I want. Like, that's where my thoughts were going. And, it was like, maybe I don't know. Tell me if you relate to this. I thought I was just like, this is my excuse to do something else bad. Because something bad happened to me, I'm going to do something bad. And it's okay. And I can, everyone's going to understand me because, that when it's like a pre-planning the excuse. Like, you do something bad and then later you tell people, hey man, I just want to let you know that, I lost all this money in my crypto because of this, and this. And people be like, oh, okay, it makes sense. I understand. And I was planning it in my head, but I was like, come on, Sky, what are you doing? And I was fighting with myself until 3:30 in the morning, just fighting with myself about how much I should let myself go, or should I? And interesting thing is, what was the thing that allowed me to get back to sleep? This is the interesting thing for me, right? So this is the interesting thing for me. So, as you have all these thoughts that come to your head. I'm just really shocked. All this bad thing happened to me. But the thoughts that came into my mind as I begin to settle my heart down, right, was just get it back. And it's not talking about I'm going to go out and try to find this person and get my money back. It's nothing to do with that. The meaning was, look, you've made this money just like you did before. Go out and grind it out. Start making some more money, right? Go get it back. Don't worry about it. Just grind. You've done it before. You can do it again. Make it back. Make even more. And it was interesting because when I started to think to myself, like, you know what? Come on. You know what? I'm going to work hard now. I'm going to work even harder now. I'm going to get all that back. I'm going to get all that back plus more. And I started to research, started thinking about different things I can do besides crypto, business-wise or whatever it was. And that's what allowed me to sleep. That's what actually calmed my mind down. It was to, you know what? Be a man. Sounds like the man cave, right? I'm like, you're a man. Take responsibility and go work it out, right? Do it again. You can do it. And I thought to myself, I was like, yeah, you know what? This is all it takes. You know what? I'm not going to change my schedule because of this. Things happen in life. And when things happen, whether good or bad, whether it's my fault or not, you just got to pick it up and go. You got to get up again. That's all you got to do. There's no point of me stressing over this. It's like, it's gone. It's gone. All right, I learned something from it. Well, I should have learned it. I already learned this lesson before, but I'm just like, this is dumb. And that's what actually helped me to get back to sleep. And I was just like, yeah, just earn it back. You did it before. You can do it again. There's nothing stopping you except yourself, right? And that was the last thought that came to my mind. It calmed me down and I fell asleep. That's what it was. And I think that's one of the things that I realized in the morning was when you have that thought and you have a plan now. Yeah, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. Then there is no uncertainty anymore, right? One of the worst things about human beings, like the thing that makes us anxious and worried, is when there's uncertainty. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Oh, all that money. Oh, what about this? What about that? And it makes us think like, well, what are you going to do, right? And if you don't have a plan, then you're gonna always be anxious. You're always gonna be worried. And I realized at that point to myself, I was like, you know what, Sky? Just get it back. That's it, right? Already this morning, I was looking at a bunch of YouTube people that I was watching before, so I can get myself back on that horse, get my mind back in the right place, start running, like start working again, like working, grinding it out, and getting all this back. And now that I'm proactive at it, I'm not really that worried. Just every once in a while, I just look at myself and say, "Oh, you idiot." I do. I just go like, "Oh, Sky, you're so stupid," from last night, kind of thing, right? But it's not a big deal anymore. It's still a big deal, but it's not like something that is over stressing me and over worrying me, right? And I think that's something that we have to kind of get into our hearts and our minds too. Is we got to get ourselves back on that horse right away, or else the only thing you're going to think about is, what happened? God, why did this happen to me? And in my head, I already know it was my mistake. Stupid Sky. I was like, oh, you idiot, right? I already know it's me. Take responsibility, move forward, make a plan, go and do it. And I was like, yeah, that's it. That's the way it should be. So I am actually super grateful and thankful that, we've been in this history. We've been through worse. Like, can anything be worse than what just happened in 2023? What I just went through yesterday is nothing. It is absolutely nothing compared to what happened in March until now. Nothing, right? So I think this is one of the things that builds resilience. And I hope it's something that we think about as having difficulties is not a bad thing. It actually builds us and makes us stronger and makes us resilient for the next big difficulty that comes our way. So, that's kind of one of the sad things that happened, but, grind it out, work it out again. That's all you got to do. Just start the next path. You can do it. And I'm really just moving forward. Like, even for me, honestly, in my head, if it's crypto, nothing is real until you take it out. Nothing's real. Right? As long as it's in the wallet, as long as it's in there, it's not actualized. And that's why it's not something like, it was never something in my hands. I've been like living my life without it anyways. right? And it's gone. I'm like, all right, let's move forward. Let's make it happen better. Let's do better. Let's be stronger. Let's be wiser. These types of things were coming in my head. So I was like, yeah, we can do this. So I hope that's something that helps you guys out too, that, it's about the mindset that we have to have. If that mindset is there, then these difficulties are not going to strike you down. You got to get back up and start doing it again. I had a good friend with a friend from another country, a good conversation. And yes, I have conversations all the time, whether on text or on phone or whatever it is. It's almost like my DMs are like a hotline. A lot of people are asking me good questions and stuff like that too. And I had an interesting question from a friend. Well, it's actually a friend of mine was very inspired by what I said yesterday. That you remember I told you about someone who had left Providence, and then they got married. They're living their life, but then in this difficult time, then now they're calling and checking and seeing how Sunseam is doing. And it's kind of like what I said last week or the week before when I said, when things get really tough and difficult, some will leave, but also others will be emboldened, right, to unite even more, to come back and check. It'll inspire them to get their feet back into this history, right? It's like, I know a lot of people, they never stopped believing. They just made a big mistake along the way. That's what happened. And for me, I understand people we all make mistakes, and some will make bigger mistakes than others, and some will have bigger temptations than others too. So while I was talking to this person about that person that I was talking about a couple of days ago, I had this mental exercise in my head, or I was thinking to myself is, So the question that came up into my head, and I think that everyone can think about this too, is, so here is this person who's trying to come back. He's not, right? This person that I'm talking about a couple of days ago, he's not, right? But I thought to myself, what if he was trying to come back though? Right? I was thinking to myself, what if they did want to come back? How easy would it be for them to come back? And what makes it that hard, right? And I was thinking to myself is that's a really tough question, because we all know, especially being in this history, coming back is not easy. Even the way that Sunseam explains it, sometimes people will come back in 3 years, in 7 years, in 21 years, because it's hard, right? And sometimes God punishes them so that they have to go through their time of suffering before they come back, right? So some people, a lot of the people who left, they kind of leave in kind of an unfortunate circumstance. They might have done something wrong or something they're embarrassed or ashamed about. But they know that even though they believe, because they did something so bad to hurt God or to hurt people or whatever it was, it's really, really hard for them to come back. But one thing I do know is, because I do have a couple of friends, I know I've been around the world to so many different places, and I know many people who've come back. Now, many doesn't mean that proportionate to the church. I'm just going to say I've met many people in the Lord's church. I've seen people like that in Whitestone Church, in other churches in Korea, I know people from Japan. I know people in Taiwan I'm not too sure about. But I know them from multiple countries, and there are people that came back. There are. Excuse me, I got something caught in my throat. Let me just get a hit of coffee. But one thing I know for sure is when I talk to people and their journey back into the history, it takes a lot of energy. So much energy, so much emotion and strength. It is one of the hardest things to do, right? And if you think about what Sunseam actually said about it, he said, say for instance, if you did something really bad, for instance, let's just say you committed the fall. Right? Something really bad, right? Oh my gosh, you committed the fall. And Sunseam said, even when you're forgiven, you're still going to have a hard time because of your own mind, especially guilt, right? So imagine you committed the fall. The guilt stays in their mind, even after they're forgiven. And that's why the hardest part is dealing with yourself. Sometimes they'll think that God is punishing them even more every time something difficult happens, or you become really self-conscious and sensitive to what people think of you, even if they're not thinking that. And, and you can't help it. We already know the words that we're teaching that, let's just say you did commit the fall, you're going to hear it in the message. It's going to come out in the Sunday message at least, 4 or 5 times a year, at least, right? It's going to come out. Which means you're going to be reminded of it and how bad it is, and then you're going to feel even more guilt, even though you're forgiven, right? So here are these people, they're going to have a very, very tough time, and it's hard enough for them to make the decision to come back. Like that in itself is torturous and painful. It's hard. But then on top of that, I also realize, like from my past experiences, that sometimes it is us that makes it harder for them to come back. And I'm not going to say it's good or bad. Well, I'm going to say that, of course, there's a point where it's bad, and there's a point I understand. There's a point that I know it becomes extreme. Like some people are not going to be happy that you're back. And they may not treat you the same. They may not think of you the same. And I understand in one sense, as in, for instance, let me give an example. If someone says something trashy about my wife, it's nothing about me, but something about someone I love. Remember, guys, my wife is either Kyla or someone from Malaysia, right? Right? So if someone says something trashy about my wife, whatever it is, then what's going to happen? Then I'm going to think, because I love my wife, I'm going to feel like they did it against me, and then I'm not going to be too happy with that person too. So that's why I do understand why people would be upset about it. I do understand that. It's normal, it's natural, and obviously it's not the best attitude to have, especially in a history where we're trying to save lives. You shouldn't be making it more difficult, right? Whether it's coming to the history or coming back to the history, you shouldn't make it more difficult. Right? One thing that Sunseem says is he's like, the door to salvation is narrow enough, but it's people that make it even narrower. Right? And we don't want to be those types of people. But like I said, I understand to a certain degree, like, yeah, people would be upset about it. And, for me is, I was thinking in my head is, man, if someone close to me or someone I loved or whatever it was wanted to come back, I would have to really, I want to think about in terms of what God thinks, right? In terms of the man of mission, in terms of what Jesus thinks. Wouldn't that be the ultimate standard, like this week's message? The standard, what is the ultimate standard? It's the person sent. So how would Jesus think? And how would Sunseem think about these situations, right? And for me, in my head, it's kind of like, wouldn't they, like, instantly forgive and want them back in this history and want everyone to treat them well? You know what I mean? And I would kind of say to you guys is, I think that is the will. If we're talking about the God's will this week, I think that's the will. I think that's the will, that God wants them to come back, not to go to hell, not to be in suffering, and to come back into this history and would open their arms. I really, really think so. And what would be my examples? How would I really know God's Shimjung? It's all over the Bible. When Jesus said 100 sheep and one goes astray, the shepherd leaves the 99 to find the one. And when that sheep is finally found, all the heavens rejoice. They all rejoice, right? And when we look at that, it's like, oh, that's the point of view from God, from the Holy Trinity, from the man of mission. They all have the heart of God, and they are going to rejoice over it, right? And for us too, we got to think about to ourselves is, if they're going to rejoice over it, then why wouldn't we, right? Why wouldn't we? Like, if someone commits the fall, honestly, like, if let's just say we're going to go to that situation, it's not like it was done to you, right? It wasn't done to you. Right? You shouldn't be so upset to that point, but we should be thinking about what does God want in that? What is the will in that situation? And I think we should be even happier that someone is coming back into this history. They're already dealing with so much. They already went through so much just to come back. They've already gone through all of the heavy lifting just to come back, so why make the burden heavier? Like, one thing, I heard this before in the past, and you guys can comment if you've heard this before. I even heard one leader say to me in the past, if you allow these people to come back so easily, then it'll make people think that it's okay for them to do the same thing and then just go out, get married and come back, or go out, or make the biggest mistakes and come back. And at the time, I'm going to be honest with you, at the time, because they were a leader, I thought it made sense. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. We don't want everyone to be like that. I'm just saying that because that's my prepubescent voice, right? It's a voice, right? So, yeah, but now that I look at this, I'm like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. It actually sounds a bit crazy, right? And I think, I don't know if you guys know who LeVar Ball is, but I think he said it best. It's stay in your own lane. Stay in your lane. What does that mean? It means we're not the judge. It's got nothing to do with us. Sin wasn't against us, right? For the vast majority, it's not, the sin's not even against us. Like I said, I understand, but we have to also really be sure that we're not going to be the ones that are judging people, right? Like I said, I feel the heart, I feel the shimjung, why people would be somewhat upset. Like I'll tell you this, there are times that I've seen like people who've made like really bad sins, like the original sin or whatever it is, and they're so sorry and they're so repentful, and then they come to Sunseam, like their leaders will bring them to Sunseam, or people will bring them to Sunseam, and interestingly, people would hope that Sunseam would like rebuke them and stuff. But when they bring them to Sunseam treats them so well. He treats them so well. And this is even weirder, it makes people mad. Right? And like, what? They did that bad sin. How come you treat him so well? And then, if you think about it, that's kind of shocking, don't you think? Yes. I think Sunseam is hurt, or God is hurt. But one thing I also do know is they don't want anyone to be condemned. They want everyone to be saved. They're going to welcome them back, treat them even better, give them a mission, whatever it is. But when you see how people react, you kind of get an idea of how far people's hearts are from God, or how far the level of love they have compared to God. And I think that's something that we really need to think about deeply. Like, I know this one story in Wonmyeongdong. It was, there was this person that did commit the fall. And Sunseam was upset, right? And rebuked this person. And what happened was, this person for like 3 days straight just was praying and crying in front of Sunseam's house. And for 3 days it rained. So during the rain, she was doing that. And after the 3 days, he came out. And sorry. In the beginning, when they reported that this person fell, Sunseam didn't say anything, and then he went into his room, whatever it is. This person then, like I said, 3 days of repenting and just crying, and just like this person felt so bad, right? For 3 days in the rain. And after the 3 days, he came out and just really took good care of her. Took really good care of her, right? And when he came out, he actually rebuked everyone else. He rebuked everyone else. He's like, look, what are you doing? This is your brother, your sister, who's made a mistake, just like everyone else makes mistakes, and here she is out in the rain, and no one bothered to give her a jacket or an umbrella or to console her, right? Well, just because I'm upset, does that mean everyone else should be upset at the same person? And then Sunseam basically said, you don't know my shimjung. Yeah, I'm the one who has to deal with it, and I'm upset. But that doesn't mean like you turn around and say that, Sunseam's upset, so we should all be upset at this person. No, it's the opposite. Sunseam wants us to take care of these people, right? And I think that's why we need to rethink about what a community is. What is a community? Community is welcoming. Community is non-judging, right? Like, we don't judge each other. We're on the same level, right? Even when we do something terribly wrong, we're not there to judge, right? The community is not the judge. Everyone is at the same level. We're in this together until the end. And we should have that mentality to have everyone be successful and happy. There is more than enough space in heaven for everyone to be successful and happy. There are no tiers and rungs that we should be worried about. And I really think we need to foster this type of attitude and thinking. Instead of more elitist mindset, that, oh, I'm better than you, I'm a head leader, or I'm in HQ, or I'm in this, or I'm a star, or I'm, blessed. I think I don't think that was the point of those departments. It was just to separate people, but not saying that someone is better than the other. We just all have different roles. And some roles may have better or bigger blessings. It's true, because they're probably sacrificing or doing a lot more. Like, I don't think anyone complains that a CEO gets paid more than the worker in the mailroom. No, the owner gets paid more. It's just accepted as a norm, right? But I really hope that we can all build a community, especially here on the Morning Star Drive also. Whether we agree or disagree, that's not the point. We're in the same boat. None of us is really that much higher than the other. And one thing that Sunsteam said is, when God looks down at human beings as we fight with each other, we're jockeying for more status, trying to make more money, and trying to think we're better than other people, Sunsteam says that God laughs at us. He laughs, and he says it's the same as a human being looking down at like hundreds and thousands of ants like walking next to him, right? From the position of a human being, these ants all look the same. They all look the same. Right? From God's position, look at human beings. We all look the same. There's nothing really that much bigger. Like, think about it. Even if someone's like 7 feet tall, is that really a big difference? Really? Right? For me, that's like, 30 centimeters taller than me. You know what? 30 centimeters, not that much. It's really small. But just like these ants, from a bigger person's perspective, a bigger being's perspective, they all look the same. God, when he looks at us, we're all the same. But then he's laughing because here they are in their world saying that I'm better than you, I'm bigger than you, I'm prettier than you, I have more money, I am this, I am that. And people are getting jealous and angry over those types of things. And sometimes we just got to look at it from a very large perspective, like pan out. Look at the big picture. It's not. A lot of these things that we're dealing with is not as big as we think it is. It feels like it, but a lot of the times, why does it feel like it? Because the issue is not so much about the situation. It's actually about us, where our mind goes and how big we make things look, right? So I thought that was a very, very, it's an interesting mental exercise because, it's like, yeah, it's true. But I talked about that person yesterday, but the question could be is, well, what if they wanted to come back? How easy would that be? Or are we making the door of salvation even narrower? Or are we welcoming and loving? Doesn't matter what you did in the past. It reminds me of the Backstreet Boys songs. I don't care who you are, where you're from, what you did, as long as you love me, right? Like that's what I feel, right? It's like, yeah, we should kind of have that attitude, right? Hey, we're here in this history. We already don't have enough people anyways, right? You might as, we should be happy if someone decides to come back, right? Either way. So that's kind of my thoughts. I was thinking about that too. Either way. So there it is, guys. That's kind of a cool intro. Wow, this is a kind of a long one too, but I hope you guys really enjoyed that. So let's get into our first break.
Down low, 'cause we don't even have to go outside no more, where the rain is pouring and it's thundering outside. When your love goes cold, even if you feel like you're all by yourself, I'm with you always. I'm not leaving by your side. Rain or shine, I don't mind, 'cause I will always find you. Sometimes I wanna hide, but you will always find me. So let's meet in the middle. So let's meet in the middle.
Yesterday is gone, look at what we made. There's still more to go, don't let your love fade. You're always in my heart, always within reach. Stormy skies are clearing, stormy hearts are calling. Keep going like you tell us, until the end you teach us. Change yourself and make yourself great every day. If you rise above your problems, then you'll change your fate. But I don't gotta worry, cause I'll never be late.
Rain or shine, I don't mind, cause I will always find you. Sometimes I wanna hide, but you will always find me. So let's meet in the middle. So let's meet in the middle. Rain or shine, I don't mind, cause I will always find you. Sometimes I wanna hide, but you will always find me. So let's meet in the middle. So let's meet in the middle.
All right, so let's get into today's Q&A Thursday portion of today's podcast on this wonderful Thursday. I hope you guys are looking forward to this. We got three good questions, and I'm very happy because all three questions are biblical questions, which means someone is reading the Bible, and I hope it inspires you guys to do the same. This is someone that always texts me and says, hey, I got a Bible question. And for me, it's inspiring because you're not going to have Bible questions unless you're reading the Bible, right? And you're not going to have life questions unless you're really living your life, right? If you're just staying at home doing nothing, you're not going to have a lot of these life questions. So let's get into today's Q&A Thursday. We have three questions. Start with the first one. And it has to do with Matthew chapter 8, okay? Now, I think a lot of you guys know this story. Matthew chapter 8 is from verse 28 that this person is talking to me. It's about Jesus restores two demon-possessed men. So when Jesus arrived in, where is this? The Sea of Galilee, right? Or in the Gadarenes, okay? Two demon-possessed men coming from the tombs met him. They were so violent that no one could pass that way. What do you want with us, Son of God? They shouted. Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time? Some distance from them, a large herd of pigs was feeding. The demons begged Jesus, if you drive us out, send us into the herd of pigs. He said to them, go. So they came out and went into the pigs, and the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and died in the water. Those tending the pigs ran off, went into the town and reported all this, including what had happened to the demon-possessed men. Then the whole town went out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they pleaded with him to leave their region. So all these questions are basically based, the first two questions are based on this scripture. So the first question is, will the spirit of humans become demons? And the answer is yes and no. So I did talk about this a little. Did I talk about it on Monday or was it last week when I talked about the difference between spiritual beings? And the difference between like spirits and ghosts is they used to have bodies, and then Satan and demons never had bodies. Like that's a big difference. So they can't really become demons, right? However, what I mean that they will become like demons means that their spirit will change other forms. Some will even become like animal-like, right? So, they become more like animals, and they'll start to become more demon-like, but they're not going to be real demons, right? So demons, like we said, demons and angels are different. Satans are fallen angels, and demons are separate, and they were never angels. But they are spiritual beings, but we just don't know exactly where they come from, right? Like I haven't heard anything about that, right? So the next question is, how come the demons are able to go into the pigs? Or how come the demons are able to go into the pigs? Okay, so one thing you'll see in this story is these two men have been demon possessed. Okay, so after what happens is when you think about demon possession, it's like the spiritual entity is taking over that person's mind. It doesn't take over the body. It takes over the heart and the mind. So usually there is some condition that was set for them to go through this. What kind of conditions are set? Well, sometimes people go through like heavy trauma. Sometimes people have mental illness. Sometimes people will set like maybe a very bad, evil spiritual condition in order for them to have these demons or Satans to take over them, right? That's why demon possession is usually only done with spirits that never had bodies, okay? So what happens is you're going to see that there's going to be a deep connection between that spirit and that body, right? Remember, if spirits could just go into, like Satans and demons, if they can just go into any human being that they want to, then they be coming in and out, right? It's kind of like that movie, have you seen the movie Venom? Right? They have these symbiotic beings that came from outer space, but they can only connect with someone that is like them. Right? That is connected like them. And that's kind of how the spiritual world works too. In the spiritual world, the one thing that Sunstein says about the spiritual world is that the spirits, spirits are like birds of a feather flock together. So let's go into a little bit extreme examples. People who are murderers will hang out with other murderers in the spiritual world who have that same type of mind. People who are people who commit suicide will all hang out together. They have the same type of mind. People who are depressed, people who have these different types of mindsets begin to come around each other. So like when the one example Sunstein did give in the past is, he said that imagine you're walking down a hallway and as you pass a room, you hear people whispering and then they say your name. What would you do? Right? They're like, imagine I'm walking down the hallway and like, oh, did you hear about Sky? He married Kyla. I'm like, huh? Once I hear my name, I'm like, what? And I would be attracted, and I would be attracted to listen to what they were saying, right? It says in the same way too, since the spiritual world is a world that's based on the heart, right? On the heart, the way we think, the way we feel, right? One example System gave is the reason why people, when people commit suicide, they don't commit suicide like it's like instant and like, oh, let me kill myself. It's actually more of, it starts off with something very, very small. Like if someone just thinks a regular thought of, if I died, would anyone care? Like something really small. Like it's not something that's going to be like, oh, it's so pressing on my mind. But what happens is when you start to think those thoughts, you start attracting those thoughts in the spiritual world. So, Sunstein was like, well, yeah, you have to watch your mind, the way that you think. It really determines a lot. And there's a lot of things that you don't see in the spiritual realm. So those people who slightly start to think about, oh, no one loves me, in the spiritual realm, you don't see it, but you are attracting those spirits towards you. Okay? So imagine you're attracted to, these spirits are coming because they're like, oh, this person thinks just like me. They're calling my name. And it's about people who think that no one really loves them. But then what happens is this person has all these influence spirits around them and they're thinking more and more deeply about it. Then all of a sudden they're like, you know what? I think I want to kill myself. Well, it's the same as in the physical realm. Like, say like something bad happens. Like let's say you become a thief, like a petty thief. So you're not stealing a lot of stuff, but you're a thief. So what happens is you become a thief. And then all of a sudden someone comes in the mix and says, hey, let's go and kill people. But you're not at that level, even on the bad side. You're going to be like, whoa, I'm not dealing with this person. And people will be unattracted to this murderer because they're not at that level. So what happens is when your mind reaches the next level, what happens then? Now you're thinking about, I'm going to kill myself, which means these spirits who are just there thinking that no one loves them, they're like, yo, this is too much for us. Those spirits leave, but which spirits are you attracting? You're attracting the spirits that are starting to think about killing themselves. And those spirits come to you too, right? And those thoughts become deeper and deeper, and they egg on your thoughts too. And as you get higher and higher, the spirits that were thinking like you will come and go depending on how deep your thinking goes, right? That's how the spiritual world connects to the physical realm, because it's a world of the heart, not of the body, right? We can see in this world is definitely a world of the body because we're usually judging things according to how we see in the body, right? So the thing we have to think about to ourselves right now is like, okay, so what does that have to do with demon possession? Well, demon possession means that these demons have to connect to someone at their level. which means that a demon or a Satan, remember, it could be a condition that is set. Like, for instance, let me give you an example. There was a revelation receiver, and this person's entire generations and generations before them were all shamans, right? So they were always calling in spirits, and then this person became someone who's able to see spirits too, or listen to spirits also. And then they became very, very, they prayed and became very powerful in prayer and spiritually. And this is why they became like a revelation receiver, and it's much easier for them because they have that history, that condition that was set before them. But of course, like I said, sometimes it's people that set the condition. They lived a terrible, wicked life, or they had some type of trauma, and then now they have this demon that is attached to them, right? This demon chooses to go into this person, and this person begins to, be demon possessed. So when you look at this too, like you'll see that these demons stay in these bodies. They stay in them, right? They're not going around from other people. This is the one that really, really connects with them. So they control these people, and they have this heart connection with that person. It's kind of the same on the good side, right? Like when you look at Jesus, the Holy Son's not going to just choose anyone. It has to be someone at that level. Elijah, to be the Elijah of the time period, choosing John the Baptist, he couldn't just be some regular schmo. It had to be someone who set the condition, who's at that level, right? So when we realize it this way, it's like, oh, so these demons are like, now, once they're demon possessed at that third level, remember, there's 3 levels of Satan's level of control, 3 levels. The first one is self-committed or self-induced, right? Satan and demons cannot come into you if you don't set some type of condition. So once you open the door, then Satan's can start to influence you, which is the next level, which is indirect control. So it starts at self-induced, right? Remember, if our conditions had nothing to do with it, then Satan's and demons could just run into any person that they want, but they can't, right? So it's got to be self-induced first. You need to think those thoughts. You need to be thinking in a certain way, right? Or acting in a certain way. And from that, then it leads, if that continues on, it leads into indirect control. Now, indirect control is not control. It is basically influence in your heart. Telling you, egging you on, making you think more deeply about that bad thing, and then makes you think more and more than, and if you continue in this, it leads to the last one, which is direct control or spiritual possession, right? So what happens here is, we see that in this case, these 2 men have already been demon possessed. They've already set the conditions or whatever it was that they are now possessed, and they've been like that all their life, and all the townspeople know who these 2 guys are. Right? So you already know that there's a connection, and they're not just leaving these 2 guys. They're connected. Okay? So the next question is, well, how come these demons are able to go into the pigs? Right? Well, they're not just able to go into pigs. They're not. They can't just go into any animal. Like, you can't do that either. But why did they go into the pigs? Because they got permission. Right? And this is why you have to understand how big and how powerful the role of the Messiah is. These demons are even pleading because don't send us back to hell. We don't want to go back to hell. You got to, put us somewhere else, right? And he's like, can we go to these pigs? And Jesus is like, yeah, go ahead. That's the power and authority that comes with the one that is sent. Jesus is the Messiah. That's the power and authority he has, where these demons don't normally go into pigs, but they need to get permission from Jesus to do that. Right? So can demons go into humans and also animals? And the answer, well, it looks like when you look at the situation, like, wow, humans and animals. But the one thing that's interesting is they had to get permission first to get into the pigs first, right? Humans, the permission comes from the human first, right? So why didn't the demons go off in the form of spirit? Well, if it went off in the form of spirit, they should be, then they should just leave at any single time. But you got to know that there is a connection, a deeper connection between that spirit and the person they're possessing. They're one almost, right? They are basically one because that person does whatever that demon wants them to do. Right? So these demons are here now in the physical realm. So now they're in the physical realm. The only way they can interact with this physical realm is through bodies, right? And, For me, I don't know what the exact situation is, but I think it's more of they would rather be in those pigs and die and feel the pain of those pigs dying rather than go straight back into hell where there's like more and more pain and suffering, right? So I look at that as like going, because they're so deeply connected to that person. Once they leave, they're like nowhere to go. It's kind of like that thing that Jesus said is sometimes you can cast a demon out, but then that demon will be like roaming around the earth, searching like in the desert, and then they'll find 6 or 7 other demons that go back to that same spot they were before and make that person even worse than they were, right? So like you see that there are these demons that are actually working in this world, right? And that's all that's what they're doing. Some of them are working in the spiritual world. Some have the mission to be in the physical world. In the same way, too, we also hear about angels. There are angels that are like human angels, work through human beings. There are spiritual angels that are helping us coming back and forth from God, and they all have different types of missions, right? But we do see that there are missions for angels here on this earth, just like the human angels that were there at the time of Abraham before Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed, right? So, it's something that we have to understand how the spiritual world works, right? How the spiritual world works more, you have to understand this first before these questions come up like, oh, okay, this makes a little bit more sense now, right? So like now the last question here from the first part of the question is the spirit of humans coming to a medium? Is that the same as demon possession? I would say it's not, because they're not going to have full control of this person, and it's only temporary, and it's because this person actually has a spiritual gift, right? That spiritual gift to talk to the spiritual realm, right? And in most cases, what I've seen is I don't usually see spirits taking over someone's body. It's more of their contacting with that spirit. They're talking or seeing or feeling or whatever it is, right? So that is something where a medium is a lot different than a demon possession, because they have a spiritual gift to see both sides, the physical and the spiritual. Where people are spiritually possessed are usually people where that spirit actually takes over them. They've gone through the 3 stages of self-induced, indirect, and then into direct control, right? So it is, and it's not, it's not the same as demon possession. Absolutely not, right? So that is something that we do have to think about also. But these are great questions coming from just 6 verses? I think it's great, right? Second question comes from the same verses is, why did those people in the town plead with Jesus to leave their region? Like, weren't they happy to see the men being saved from demon possession? And the answer is, I think when people don't really know what's going on, like say spiritual things, and then all of a sudden you see pigs running off a cliff, I think people are more scared. Like, look at the world today. Even if that same thing happened in the world today, people would be more freaked out. Then they'd be like, oh, you saved a person from demon possession. People would probably still be scared of those demon-possessed guys because they're thinking, oh my gosh, they're demon-possessed. And secondly, it's a freaky situation where demons are talking to Jesus, right? Remember, people even thought Jesus, like the Pharisees Sadducees said he's Beelzebub, which means he's the son of Satan kind of thing, because it's like, how can you talk with Satans, right? How come they listen to you? Oh, you must be the son of Satan kind of thing, right? So you can understand that when people are ignorant and they don't know really well about a certain situation, that is very, very easy for them to misunderstand. And when they misunderstand, that's what happens. And they're going to be more scared, right? And are they happy? I think in most cases, even in the world today, I think they'd be more freaked out. They'd be freaked out. It's like, please leave. You're talking to demons. Like, think about that today. Imagine if someone was talking to demons. Don't you think you'd be more afraid of that person rather than like happy like, oh my gosh, he saved me? No, you'd be like, yo, this guy's talking to demons. I think people would be more afraid if you look at it from a very realistic sense, right? All right, so let's get into the last question. Last question here is very, very interesting. I find this one it's a biblical question. However, at the same time, it is a very practical question. So this is going into the verses, Matthew chapter 8, verse 19-20, that says, Again, truly, I tell you that if two of you on earth agree about anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I with them. All right? So the question is, how do you explain the deep shimjung of the Lord in these verses? Now, this is more not a question. I look at this question as more of not so much what is a deep shimjung. The question I'm going to bring to you is, what is the deep shimjung of God in all these verses? It's a tough question. What is a deep shimjung? Because when you talk about deep shimjung, the deep shimjung, it doesn't have a bottom. It just gets deeper and deeper, and it really just depends on your level, right? It's a tough question. Because shimjung is not something that is gained with just knowledge, right? You can get some shimjung with knowledge, but even more powerfully, you can understand deeper shimjung with action and going through the same situation and circumstance, right? So let me give you an example about deep shimjung. Like, one of the things I used to hate when I was younger is I hate it when leaders just say, hey, pray about it. Like, I'll come to them with the problem, someone else comes to them with the problem, and the leader just says, pray about it, right? And sometimes it's almost to every problem we have, and it kind of sounds demeaning, or like, are you saying that I haven't prayed deeply about it, right? And I used to hate that answer. I hate that answer. I even made a T-shirt about it. In my online store, there's I'll pray about it, right? That's it's kind of one of those funny answers that someone says, hey, can you help out with praise leading? I'll pray about it, which basically means no, right? But I thought it was personally, when I heard leaders say that, I thought it was the leader's way of saying, I have no idea, so you pray about it. Until I became a leader. So what happens is, am I saying that leaders don't know the answer? And I'm going to say, yeah, in a lot of cases, we don't know the answer because each person is different. And it's because each person is different, they all have to deal with their answers or deal with their situation in a different way. It's different situation, different circumstance, different family, different friends, different everything else. But the thing that was interesting when I became a leader is, when you become a leader, there are so many things you don't know. So many things you have no idea. Like, you have no idea what to do. I have no idea what to do about this situation. So as a leader, as a pastor, what do? You pray, and you pray, and you pray. And interestingly enough, when you become someone who's your job is to pray, you'll start to see things getting solved by prayer. Whether it's through inspiration to give you an idea, or it's through the actions that we take that actually resolve it, or other people coming in to help, or other people giving an answer or giving ideas. Or sometimes it just gets resolved on its own and you have no idea how it happened, but all we know is that we prayed about it. And later, you begin to realize even more, because Sunseed says the same thing in the messages. Pray. You got to pray. Why aren't you praying? You got to pray more. You got to pray this. You got to pray, right? And later I realized the same thing. Why does Sunseed tell us to pray so much? It's not because he doesn't know. It's because he knows the power of prayer and how prayer solves problems. He knows the deep shimjung of prayer. There's a difference of someone who just says pray about it and doesn't know the true power of prayer, and then someone who has been through it, prayed with all their hearts, received answers, and then tells you, pray about it. Because there's a deeper shimjung when you do it, when you experience it, when you have that wisdom. There's a thin line between what is known and what is unknown. It's the same thing of shimjung. There is a thin line between understanding deeper shimjung and understanding at a shallow level. My best advice, I think this question is more about how do I get deeper shimjung when I'm reading these verses. My best advice for people is to understand deep shimjung of anything. It is to go to the extreme of trying it. This is when you'll be able to realize the deep shimjung of anything, is once you've done it. Like I said, I'll tell you guys about my experience because I've done it. 7 hours of prayer, 40 days a week. 40 days, I'll do 7 hours of prayer, even when I was preaching, doing all the other different things. Because I did it. Extreme. I realized things from it. I understood, wow, this is what prayer is like. I wish I could get that back. You got to go through it. And there's going to be so many verses that touch people's hearts and so many verses that don't, because it depends on your experience. And my advice, hey, Matthew chapter 18, verses 19, 20, how do I know the deep shimjung of this? You got to try it. got to go through it. And I'm going to tell you, the one thing that everyone hates is pray about it. Because the person who understands, like in this situation, people who understand the deep shimjung of prayer, when they say pray about it, they're saying it from the position that I've done it and it works. And you don't understand how great and how amazing and powerful prayer is. You got to pray. Then to someone else who may not know and just saying pray about it because I have no idea. I have no idea what to tell you at this time. Got to pray about it. There's a huge difference. There's a thin line between deeper shimjung and just regular thin shimjung. And guess what? The shallow shimjung, shallow water is what, 3 feet? How deep is deep water? It's anywhere from what? 8 feet, 10 feet, 20 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet. There are levels of the depths of how deep you can go. So rather than just saying, oh, this is a deep shimjung, it's better for you to realize the deeper shimjung by actually going through it yourself. And that would be my best advice for that last question in order for us to get into it a lot more deeply. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is Q&A Thursday for today. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. I hope you guys are having a good time in the podcast so far. All right? So that leads us into the second break for today.
我看见主的模样 So alive, so alive 我听见主的声音 So clear, so clear 他的爱融化我心使我灵魂安然平静，那话语充满能力，使我能看见改变的神迹。多幸运，在新时代里与主一起经历。持守我对天地约定，我看见立志前进着 So alive, so alive 我听见话语满溢着 So clear, so clear 主的爱始终如一，不曾改变，使我能完全沉浸主话语，确实不必，使我能体会神爱的旨意。多幸运，在新时代里与主一起经历风雨，一生用尽真心持守我对天地约定，属天的路我越走越确信，感谢圣灵强烈引导我心灵，当代有主同在包围世纪，我会怀抱感谢忠诚世间到底，主啊我爱你。多幸运，在新时代里与主一起经历风雨，一生用尽真心持守我对天地约定。多幸运，在新时代里与主一 我看见主的模样，搜我来，搜我来。
So let's get into the final segment for today's Thursday podcast. And of course, every Thursday we do sermons in the sky, these short mini sermons just from the inspirations I get during the week and the things that I really want people to think more deeply about. And this comes from the Wednesday pre-dawn service, the live service from Korea. And it really made me think a lot. It made me really think deeply. And I was inspired by this one story he's talking about Jesus walking on water, right? And of course, Peter asked to go out. And Jesus calls him, and he walks on water, but then begins to take his eyes off Jesus and begins to sink. And of course, we hear that, we know the interpretation of this. Sunseem said that the water symbolizes the world, and then the winds and waves are the difficulties, trials, and tribulations, hardships that we go through in life. And we look at Peter and look at ourselves through Peter and say that, wow, he was walking on water, he was doing great, and then all of a sudden he began to look at all the problems in the world, and you'd start to focus on the tribulations and difficulty, and this is why he sunk into the world. But when I was listening to this, I was thinking about the other side. I was thinking about a different angle of this. Because we've all learned the word about the Holy Son. And we know that there is a branch and an original entity. And we know that Jesus was human, right? He was the human of the Holy Son, right? The branch entity. And he had the same emotions as us. He was afraid. He was angry. He was frustrated. He was scared at times. And we see, he is someone who's going through the exact same things we are going through. But if we really understood what this Holy Son lesson means, then we need to think about Jesus. Think about Jesus in this story about walking on water. Jesus was walking on the very thing that can't be stood upon, which is water. When we look at it physically, right? Water wasn't meant to be walked on top of. It is not solid. It is impossible to walk on. And can you imagine if God told you to walk on water? Wouldn't you be afraid? Wouldn't you even doubt and think to yourself oh, come on, no way, God, this is impossible. But this is what God told Jesus to do. Not just walking on water, he's talking about walk above the world. Walk in a place that is impossible. And it is only possible because I want you to focus only on me. Because God knew how terrible the world can be. God knew how terrible people can be. God knew that they could even go to the point of torture and kill the one that he sent. God knew. But he told Jesus not to be afraid. And he said, focus on me. No matter how bad it gets, focus on me. The moment, and when we see what happened with Peter is the moment he lost his focus, he began to sink into the world. And we have to look at this. It's like sinking into the world. It's a very interesting concept. But when you've sunk into the world, you start to get too caught up in the things of the world, whether it's your image, how you look, how much money, how much materialistic things. We get worried and anxious about all these things in our life, these physical things. We begin to fight with each other over things that should have never gotten that far. Things become transactional, especially love, where you only love people that love you. You only treat people well if they treat you well. Have you sunk into the world? Have you lost yourself in this history? Because the question I think we need to ask is what changed? It wasn't the world. The world has always been the same, with the same rules. It's always been the same. The question is, what changed? And we know it's us. It's us. Think about when we first came into this history, joyful, happy, just loved being close to God. We laughed, we played, we never judged our lives by what we had. We were just happy. The world has always been playing by the same rules. The one who has the most wins. The one who looks the best wins. The one with the most followers and likes wins. The fastest wins. The strongest wins. And it's really an unfair game because only few people can actually be happy. When did we sing it to the world? Because we know it wasn't like this before. We remember when we first realized this history. We remember the first person we taught, the first person we evangelized, the first person we helped to understand God better, the first person we prayed for and they got better. We were walking on water. All the things in the world meant nothing to us. We continued to run. Even when we didn't have enough, we continued to make history. We took our eyes off the Lord. We took our eyes off of God. And then we started to see things physically. And eventually we even started to look at the 1 cent in a negative or doubtful manner. We need to get back to walking on water. We need to get back to focusing our sights on the Holy Trinity, on the Lord. We need to get back to being truly happy again. I'm not saying we're going to have zero worries, but they definitely won't be big enough to take our eyes off the Lord. Who is the standard? The standard is the Lord. The standard is the one that is sent. And when you look at how Jesus lived, when you look at how the man of mission lives right now, they're not bothered by the winds and the waves. They don't even look at it. They're just walking on the world. And the only reason they can do that is because they're so focused on God. I really hope that all of us too can have this mentality and mindset. And in this short Sermons in the Sky, that we can really have that mentality like, where did I go wrong? Where did I actually falter? It's time for us to get back. So I really hope that today's Sermons in the Sky really helps you guys out. And hope you guys, it'll make you think deeply, and we'll be able to move on this wonderful Thursday and welcome the Friday to come, which is the last day of the work week. So I'm super happy about this. All right. So everyone have a wonderful and awesome Thursday. Enjoy all, that God gives you and blesses you. Let's make it through all the difficult times, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm good